I'm Larry Snowden. We're back here at the Chicago Comic-Con just like we promised, and now we have Peter David here who's going to give us an interview. Told you I'd corner him, guys, and I did it. Pete, I know we had to hunt you down and get you, and we're really sorry. We'll let your wife and family out later on. But I just got a question for you. How did you get started in the business?
Well, actually, I came in through the business end. I started with Marvel Comics as assistant direct sales manager, then sales manager. What that basically meant was that I was responsible for helping to get the books into the stores and dealing with the distributors who got the books out to what was called the direct market. On the side, I was doing writing, and slowly the writing career began to blossom to the point where I decided to make it my full-time vocation.
That's cool. What was your first pro work that you remember?
In comic books?
Yes.
My first pro comic book work, the place where my name first appeared, I was a research assistant on the original edition of the Marvel Universe Handbook. I was also the editor or the assistant editor on Marvel Age, the in-house fanzine which launched to let the fans know about what was coming up from Marvel. The first comic book story I ever wrote eventually appeared in Spec Spidey number 103. It was called Compulsion, but it was not the first comic book of mine to see print. The first one to see print was in Amazing Spider-Man number 266. It was called Jump for My Love or Spring is in the Air, and it was featured the Toad, Frogman, and Spider-Kid.
A dubious distinction there. Well, we know that you're working on quite a few titles. You're working on The Incredible Hulk. You're also working on Supergirl, also working on Aquaman. Is there any title that you don't do now that you really do want to do?
Not really at this point. I'm writing the characters that I want to write, and if I was taking on another title, I'd have to start dropping some stuff, which I'd rather not do. I have a real love for the characters. So, and if there's any other characters that I am of a mind to write, I have the perfect venues for which I can have them guest star, and so I can write them for an issue or two.
Now, we do have to ask you, because a couple of people that watched a couple years ago was asking about Oblivion and Backlash Oblivion 2. Now, you wrote both movies, correct?
Right, yeah.
Okay. How did you come up with the ideas, and is it true that George Takei actually came up with the Star Trek jokes, or did you actually write them in there?
The basic concept for Oblivion was actually developed by a guy named Charlie Band. Charles Band owns Full Moon Entertainment, and Full Moon is more or less a vehicle for his various concepts. So Charlie was the one who came up with the basic core notion of science fiction westerns, cowboys and aliens. Some of the characters already existed when I came onto the scene. Mr. Gaunt, the psychic funeral director, for example, was already there. The rest of the characters, more or less, were created by me, and I developed the stories for the two films. And yes, George Takei put in all the Star Trek jokes.
All right, now you're coming up later on in this year. You're coming out with Heroes Return, which you're writing, which is going to bring the heroes back to the Marvel Universe. Can you give us a little description of what's going to happen, or a little bit of info?
Sure. Heroes Return is a 4-issue series. It keys off of Franklin Richards, who is basically responsible for the creation of the other universe that the characters have been romping around in. And the imminent arrival of the Celestials calls for one world, possibly two, to basically be demolished. Like any scientist pretty much cleaning up after their work. If you were going to liken it to anything, if you wanted it condensed into one sentence, I would essentially say, think of it as Noah and the Ark with superheroes.
All right, we'll be looking for that. I appreciate your time. Thank you so much. I just want to ask you one more question, and then I'll let you go. We know about the Heroes Return, but is there anything else coming up that you would like to tell people about that you're excited about, or maybe you want them to read something else that you don't even do?
Well, if we're talking about stuff that I do, what's fun is the New Frontier Star Trek novels, which are currently coming out in the stores. Books 1 and 2 are out now. Books 3 and 4 will be out later this month, the month of July. It's the first time that Paramount has ever authorized a series of books that are based on totally original characters. And so I'm very pleased with that.
Well, that's good. Anything you want them to know about that you don't do that you think people should read out there?
Let's see. You know what I just read that I thought was a lot of fun?
What?
The folks right next door do a comic book called Rat Bastard. That's really kind of charming, in a sort of sick, Frank Miller, Vaughn Baudet-esque way.
Ooh.
So the first issue of that came out, and I thought that was a lot of fun, so you should give that a look.
All right. We'll take his advice. We'll look at that in just a moment. I'm Larry Snoney. This is Peter David. We thank you for your time. We'll be back with yet another interview.